JX here with the Year Leadership series on leadership, particularly for emerging leaders and leaders who want to sharpen up their skills and characteristics that make great leaders. I'm with John Cunningham from Cunningham's Real Estate in Sydney. We were just talking off camera. I think the last time we had an interview like this was about 10 years ago on your balcony overlooking the beach, and you were just about to go to yoga at that after the
I was a young man there, Jet.
Yeah, after the interview. So my first burning question is, what has changed from your leadership when we talked then 10 or so years ago to now?
I would say my leadership style hasn't changed, but my understanding of the importance of leadership has shifted massively, and that is simply because I'm constantly learning about leadership. I'm of the belief that leadership is everything in terms of any business model. I've studied a lot of what makes successful, sustainable businesses. And the number one thing is leadership. Leadership leads to creating great culture. Great culture leads to great performance. So it's almost like a verification of my leadership style was the right way to go about it, despite the fact that everywhere there was all kinds of different leaders. There was different leadership courses, and I'm going, it doesn't sit right with me. So my leadership style has always been the same. It's been empowering others.
So defining your leadership as empowering others, what does that look like?
Well, it's a bit, I mean, you know how many layers of leadership there are. I mean, I did a presentation recently on leadership, and I had 100 leadership attributes right up on a screen. And I said, don't be daunted. You don't have to be all of these at once, but this is what leadership is about. These 100 things, that their attributes, their characteristics, their whatever they may be. But that happens on a daily basis, that you could actually experience 100 of them. So awareness of what leadership is and how critical that is in any business, because people follow leaders. They follow leaders that are worthy of being followed. So it's like being trustworthy. You've got to be leadership worthy. And so when people follow someone, they believe in them. They want to get a better understanding of what their purpose and motivation and what drives them. And then they develop as people, and that's what the empowerment component is. So all the things I do to get people to be empowered, to believe in themselves, to actually be confident in who they are, to build their knowledge so those things work congruently, and then get into the energy space where they can actually go through and connect with clients. So to me, it doesn't matter what role they're in the business, whether it's operations, marketing, whether it's PM or sales. They are all in the same thing, that they're working with clients, whether that be internal or external. There's no difference. And the same, I suppose, knowledge that goes into developing leaders doesn't change depending on the role, doesn't change depending on the business. It's simply the same things. You get people to become better people, to empower them to continue and grow, and you have a sustainable business.
Yeah. How many years have you been in leadership, if we put it that way, do you think?
Yeah, good question. I mean, as a business leader, as a business owner, it's been 32 years, but I've always been of the view, I got taught this very early on, that everyone's a leader. They just don't know it yet. Even if you're in leadership of yourself, you're a leader. Even if you're in leadership of one person, you're a leader. And so if you have a mindset of a leader, it means you're always constantly developing and progressing. So that was given to me, I think back in about 1982, 83, I was 5 years into the industry, and I heard a really empowering speaker. He's actually a kinesiologist of all things, and he was talking about all these different things, and he mentioned that. He said, you are all leaders. You're just not aware of it, but you should be, because this is, if you want to progress, you're either going to be a follower or be followed. So and it was just quite an eye-opening thing for me.
What have you seen over that 32 years that have been good shifts in leadership, and what have you seen that are still there that are not good about leadership?
Yeah, I think in this industry particularly, there's still a lot of autocratic leaders. In other words, they're an authority figure, so they want to be looked up to. They want to be, hey, I'm your boss, blom, blom, blom. rather than the empathic leader who actually understands his people. Because unless you understand your people and get to realize in our organization of 80 people, I've got 80 different personalities and I require 80 leadership styles. Right, there's 100 things in leadership style, but in each individual case, it's very bespoke. But there is a consistency in how I am. In other words, who am I being? It's how am I being seen by others as a leader is so critical to me, because that's my behaviours that they're seeing. My intent might be really good, but what's the behaviour they're actually seeing? And that has to be consistent. You cannot, when I say there's a different leadership style, it's like when you're on a one-on-one basis, you're actually working with a bespoke individual who has different needs. And then at the end of the day, it's you're what you're doing. So it's being, seen, and doing is my key components in that leadership. Because I use this example when I talk about leadership. There's a guy I know in Melbourne, you've probably all heard of him, James Cunningham from Marshall White, who's in sort of semi-retirement now. But I went down there to do a day with Marshall White guys. It's about 10 years ago. And we arrived up for an 8 o'clock meeting in the morning, and we arrived at the Marshall White office, and there's James at the front door of the Marshall White office at 8 o'clock with a shovel and a spade and a hose, cleaning up human excrement on the door of the office. And I said, "Oh, mate, you good?" He said, "Yeah, no, I'm going to do this." And I said, "Oh, hadn't someone cleaned up?" He said, "Oh, yeah, there's 10 people in there. 10 people have walked past this today. But I don't." And that leadership by example, and while we were there, another 5 or 6 people, "Oh, James, you're right. Yeah, no, good." He cleaned it up, hosed it all down, finished the job. And that's leadership. That's being, seen, doing, you know, and so leadership by example is, to me, the key component in this. But we get so many leaders who have achieved their leadership position for various reasons, or they're business owners, but they don't understand leadership. They go, "I'm the boss, I'm the business owner, you'll do what you're told." And I hear horror stories, absolute horror stories of the way people are still in that space. And it just doesn't lead to great productivity. It doesn't lead to a respectful, productive, efficient, energetic, effective workplace when you have an autocratic leader that people are afraid of. They won't talk to them about stuff they're going through because they go, "Well, they're not interested in me." And people just don't stay in those environments, quite frankly. So you want people to stay, play, and perform.
Why do you think that prevails, that characteristic in leaders, and what do you think they get out of it? Because they must get something from it, positive or negative.
They just don't know any different yet. I think that's the problem, and they're so ego-driven, and they're driven by the next deal. They don't have a sustainable view of the future, and often they surround themselves with similar people, and you know, they argue and fight and banter, and they got this entitlement here and this and also I think a lot of principals are still selling principles, and they haven't sort of got away from the fact that, okay, what are they actually developing? And I know a lot of selling principals, and they are selling principles, but they actually have someone running the business, and they have someone in a more leadership role. They're actually one of the troops because that's their flame, and they've realised that they're not a business owner leader. They're actually a sales agent. That's where they do their best. But don't try and confuse the two, in my view, because it just simply doesn't work. Don't compete with your team and try and be the leader who's actually running the business. That's my view, anyway.
Yeah, it's a good point. A lot of good agents who transition into a business owner role, sometimes it's not a good fit. Why
not their flame.
Do you think that is?
Oh, look, one, they've always run their business on the next deal. In other words, they haven't really got a plan. They have goals and they have targets and all those things, and it's all KPI driven, but it's not actually in reality. It's just numbers. And as we know, the market fluctuates up and down. Oh, we haven't met our numbers. Well, yeah, the market shrunk by 30% last year. We only shrunk by 20. Congratulations, good job, well done. But it's sort of like, I don't know, they just don't get business. And when you understand business and a sustainable business that requires a succession plan like we have, you understand, therefore, that you are developing people to come through and keep a thing going, and then a legacy and all those sort of things. But to me, it's just developing something that works, something that you can pass on, something that people can develop and as people and have successful careers. And that's not about me. It's not been about me for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
That the shift, whereas most people make it about them. Everything's about them. It's their little precious golem holding onto their precious. And I see those businesses peak and then drop off because they're holding on perception of precious.
Yeah, what would you say are the leadership characteristics a great agent who becomes a selling principal needs, and what are the great characteristics a great agent who becomes a business owner needs? Are they two different characteristic sets from a leadership point of view, or are they the same?
Well, yeah, they are. I mean, the second is simply going beyond self. So it's self-transcendence. Right. And so until you can understand that, and to me, that's that self-awareness component, which a lot of people, I'm self-aware, and it's just not self-aware. They don't see the behavior that others see, and they're not willing to see it. In other words, they're not willing to look in the mirror and go, I'm actually being a dickhead, and I'm often a dickhead, but I don't believe I am. So there's the awareness is not, and someone tells them that, they go, no, I'm not that. Yeah. And they go and they back it up and say, I don't care what people think. That's one thing, saying I don't care what people think. But if you're being a complete dick, maybe you should care about what people think, because that's going to reflect on your whole career and your brand and your people, and it's going to impact on their daily lives. Again, people come into your office, the last thing you want them to do is go home worse off than they came in. Yeah. But your behaviours, which you don't see because your intent's really good, because leaders judge themselves on their intent, not on people judge themselves on their intent, or who I want to be, rather than who they're actually being. So they're not actually taking that mirror until they get a full analysis of them, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, is that what people really think about me? Yeah, that's what people think about you. No, it's not true. So that attribute, sorry, that's not an attribute. That's a consequence. So if you're going to be the selling principal and you're going to do all those things, understand the impact that has on your people, understand what, there any resentment around that, or I can make more money this way. Okay, great. But is that a long-term sustainable plan? Two, the people who have made the decision to become business leaders and run a business and let go to grow, they've got to have the same attributes. They've got to have that self-awareness. They've got to have that self-belief. They've got to have a 360-degree view of themselves, so they can get to that self-transcendence and go, you know what? I'm developing a great culture. I'm building a great legacy. I'm empowering people to be the best they can be. And I'm helping feed 80 families and helping those families develop, because we've got a great mother, father, person who loves their work, loves their family, works in congruence. That to me is the most important thing of all.
Yeah, that makes total sense, mate. John, in your career, is there anyone you've been looking up to from a leadership point of view, something you read, somebody that's had a big impact on you over the years? Yeah,
my good friend Chris Hanley is a great leader. I really admire what he does and his principles around that. And we have very similar styles in what we do. And there's some great guys down in Melbourne. I won't name them all, but they're running really good businesses, but they have that awareness of the fact that business, they're just not real estate agents. It's going beyond that real estate agent and thinking, I've got to have more. How much is enough? Yeah. And the people who've come to that realization that, the success isn't what I thought it was. I've actually discovered success is actually being happy. And God, I've lost so many years of not understanding what success is and how I can actually be happy. And so they're the people that I sort of I see like Nathan Casserly and Alex Owens down at South Australia, young guys who've actually come to a lot of realizations around that. and through a bit of trauma as well.
Yeah.
Trauma is an incredible learner of what's important in your life.
Yeah.
And I see people that have either learned or haven't learned from trauma, and you probably know, you've seen the same thing. You think, oh, you think you would have learned from that, you know? No, just on the next deal. Didn't get anything out of that. And I think, yeah, that's, and I love humble leaders, quiet leaders that just understand, you know, their why and understand their place in the world and are making a difference to others' lives, because that's my modus operandi, is making a positive difference to everyone I meet every day.
Yeah, no,
that's what drives and motivates me. If I can achieve that, one person at a time, improve, help, progress them, they're the sort of people that I look up to.
Yeah. Do you still have an Achilles in your leadership? Is there still something you're trying to close the gap on and improve? And
Yep. It's called.
What is it, and why, and what are you doing about it?
It's caring too much.
Right.
I know it's, and that's why I have trouble saying no to things, because I see things that need fixing, and I'm involved in a number of community initiatives, and I see things that need fixing, and I go and say, hey, you know, someone's asked me to do a leadership mentoring thing recently, and I've ended up going there and just completely changing the organisation and you know, getting it rebranded and getting it aware, community aware of what it does, because it does such a great job. And it's like, you know, actually their problem was not leadership, it was identity. They had an identity issue. So yeah, and look, it's a funny thing, Jet. It's sort of like, is that an Achilles heel, or is it just a real great attribute?
Well, some people would say, is it people pleasing and the ability not to say no?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's not just to please people, because you can be asked to do things, and if you know that that's going to lead to a better outcome for whatever it is, I find it hard to say no to that, because I can add things, and I know there's a lot of people in society that have incredible skills, they don't share them. You know, it's astounding. So I don't know if there's Achilles heel, but probably for me, it's a little bit around consistency in a way. I don't know. I've never actually thought too much about that.
It's a good
I've just been told that I care too much, so that was the first thing that came to mind.
That's a funny one. In the opposite area, what's your superpower as a leader?
Yeah, we do a lot of training on superpowers, because everyone has an inner superpower or can create a superpower. And I've found that my superpowers have continuously developed. The first superpower I discovered was when I left school, completely despondent, thought I was completely hopeless at everything. I failed the HSC. I found out that I actually had a really bad stigmatism and I couldn't see, so I never learned anything at school. When I got my glasses and I went to TAFE and studied valuation, I found out I was really good at stuff, right? I had people in the class coming to me for advice on the surveying aspects of valuation and on town planning and other elements, because it really resonated with me, and I actually became really good at it. And I remember that moment thinking, oh, I'm not so dumb. I'm actually smart. And then as I read and became a reader, and I just tell people, read, learn, because every bit you learn has meaning in your life. So that superpower of being an abundant learner and actually always be learning was such a critical thing. But my biggest superpower is people. I'm a connector. So I love connecting people. I love connecting the whole concept around that. The other superpower is curiosity. You know, I've always been curious about things. So therefore with clients, I was just curious on how I can help them. And I had just people back in the late 70s, early 80s going, oh, no one else has actually been this interested. 22-year-old young guy, yeah, he'll give you a go. So curiosity led to genuine interest is another superpower. Above and beyond discretionary efforts, another superpower. And these are powerful superpowers if you apply them. But I became known as the young guy who just knew everything. Like people would go, oh, we referred to you, we heard that you're a really intelligent, smart guy that understands, you got technical knowledge, because I was the only valuer in the industry at the time around here in real estate. So it just built my profile massively because I was doing things that others couldn't be bothered doing.
Yeah.
And that's how I crouched it all. I put it into that bucket, and I became really good at it. And I took interest. I helped people above and beyond. I did stuff that people would never have thought of doing for people. And, driving people to a nursing home, picking this up, going shopping for them, whatever it may be, whatever I could do. It wasn't because I felt that was going to win me business. I just felt that was good. Those people needed help.
Yeah.
So people need help. I help people.
Yeah.
And I learned that from my parents in growing up. We would go to the cerebral palsy, which was the spastic centre at the time, and play with the kids on weekends. I got a really different view of the world by doing that. And my dad was involved in St. Vincent de Paul, and I would go around and help him with food packages and just different things that he would do. So I got a different view of that world. So I got a view of the world that, to do good, you help people. That's what you do. Good works. That's the motto of St. Vincent de Paul. I'm not a crazy religious guy, but it was just simply, have compassion with people. So that superpower in real estate made me a lot of money. It gave me a lot of business. People wanted to deal with me. And then the next superpower I discovered that I had was the manner in which I work. People appreciated the manner. I got this incredible testimonial from a client. It sits in my office, pride of place. It's a block of wood carved by a landscape gardener, with a beautiful motif on it, and he's carved the words on it. John, thanks for the result, but mostly thanks for the manner. It's the shortest review I've ever got, but it's the most important. The manner in which you behave, the manner in which you communicate, the manner in which you do what you do, it matters. Yeah. And it matters to people. So having those sort of superpowers, rather than I'm great at skills and dialogues or I'm great at closing, that's all bullshit, quite frankly. The reality is you're creating an environment where people trust you, and you're creating an environment where you can negotiate a great outcome, and you're creating an environment where you get people ready to buy, you're creating an environment where you get people ready to sell. Creating those environments is to me the superpower. It's the negotiation's easy then, and the closing's easy because you've actually got people informed and ready to act. Yeah, it's simple stuff, mate. It's insane.
It's human-centered leadership. I love it, mate. Most challenging time in your life or business, and how did you lead yourself out of it or through it? I've just got a
well, as you know, I had a cancer. It's actually 16 years ago now. And it was a prostate cancer, and it was an advanced cancer. And I had to have urgent surgery. I've been having blood tests every year for, 20 years, I think I've been, or more. And it tripled in the PSA rating. And I went and saw the surgeon and said, okay, look, you've got cancer. It's on the outside of the prostate. We don't know if it's broken out, so therefore we don't know if it's spread. The tests had shown that it wasn't metastasized, so that was good. But they acted. They had the surgery. It was double the time in the surgery to get it all. And they had to scrape a lot of stuff around it, so it was a lot of nerve damage. And so both the challenging professional and personal time, and I've been clear for 16 years. But at the time, it was, there was like, has the cancer spread? And we didn't know if it had or hadn't for 3 months after the surgery. But they had got it all. The surgeon was incredible. He got it all. But my recovery, therefore, was problematic. And the problematic element was on incontinence and impotence, quite frankly. I'll be open about it. And so I had to have a mindset that was determined that I would recover fully from this. It took 4 years. Right. It took 4 years of physical and mental therapy to get everything back to normal. And it was an incredible journey of willpower. and an incredible partner, my wife, to support me through that, because a lot of men give up. And to me, she tells me now I'm worse than I was when I was a kid. So it's like, it was a good thing, I'm not worse. I mean, I'm my libido is as strong as ever. So it's like, and I'm open with this stuff. I don't talk about shit. People can take whatever they want from it. But it was an incredible time. So from a business perspective, I was building a team. I was going gangbusters. And I said, guys, I'm taking 3 months off to get through this. And I said, I'm taking it off. And they went, not a problem. Everyone stepped up. And they stepped up because they believed in me. And they did this for me, which in turn did it for themselves, because all their performances went through the roof because they had a purpose beyond themselves in what they were doing. One of it was for me and one of it was for the business. They loved the business. They wanted to thrive and strive and thrive. So going through that process, knowing what I was going through, and I was open with them about it, it was an incredible time. And I learned. I went and did a Petria King retreat called Quest for Life. It was the greatest learning of my life, quite frankly, because I came out of it with the survivor's creed, the four things: the control, the commitment, the challenges, and the connection, which you build your life around. And that's what I do every day. And the appreciation of every day you have. Because if I had not have had those blood tests, if I had not had the insurance policy from the guy that sold it to me 20 years earlier, I would not have lived 5 years. So the cancer was gone. It might have started the journey within months, and then once you get that, it's see you later.
Yeah.
So aware of that mortality, aware of that thing, and aware of the fortunate decisions that I made in my life that led to that, meant that my appreciation of life just went through the roof. And so, as I said earlier about, sometimes trauma, people learn from trauma, some people don't. I really learned from trauma, which is the mortality trauma, and then the physical consequences and recovery process of what I had to go through.
Yeah.
Great learning.
Yeah, no, powerful, mate. Couple more questions, mate. Thanks for your time. What is the future of leadership? What does it look like, do you think?
I'm really positive about the future of leadership, because I think there's just so much great information, and social media in many respects has contributed to that in a positive way, apart from all the other negative things that it does. But from a positive perspective, there's so much leadership information. You start looking up things on leadership on Instagram, it's just going to keep feeding you more and more and more. And I've rarely seen crap, it's usually good, positive stuff, and stimulating, thought-provoking stuff. And so therefore that realization, and it's coming all from an anthropological perspective. And that anthropological perspective is very much about actually understanding what's at the core of leadership, and getting to that core of leadership and understanding, that thing I mentioned earlier about leadership leads culture, culture leads to performance, and not the other way around. If people are aware of that, the Aristotle project that Google did, they figured all this out. It's all there. Macquarie Bank have adopted that. They've adopted. Macquarie Bank's in a changed place, massively changed place as a result of that. So people sitting in their little bubbles thinking that life is about the next deal, better pop that bubble, because there is a lot more deals than the next deal if you actually create a sustainable environment. So my positivity on leadership is learn more, expose yourself. If there's a leadership conference, go to it. Like the Business of Real Estate's coming up next week. There's still tickets, I think. I don't know if it's sold out yet, but not. Go to those sort of conferences, right? Seriously. If you're not doing that, come to the Rise Leadership Conference in April the 18th next year in Sydney. It'll be the smartest investment you will ever make, because it will start you on a leadership journey unlike any other. You will be able to capitalize on so much stuff that's outside probably the realm of your current thinking. And to me, magic happens outside the box. As soon as you start thinking outside the box, and that's in general in business, in real estate, we can't keep doing what we've always done. It's been shit, quite frankly. we treat people crap. We've got to stop that. We've actually got to start respecting our clients and treating them and looking after them and helping them and informing them, because they don't know what they don't know 70% of what they need to know. How are they supposed to make well-informed, positive decisions when we keep them in a box in the corner and don't inform them, don't educate them? You want people in your world to make good decisions. You want to be part of that decision making. You want it to be more about the manner than about the result. The interesting thing is, usually the result's better anyway. In fact, 100% it's going to be better if your manner's the right way. So it's shifting that stinking thinking and moving into a whole new abundance thinking.
Yeah, I love it. Last question, mate. Sum up leadership in one word.
God, there's so many words, Jed.
I know. You only got one.
I'll call it empowering. To me, that just is, it's a byproduct. Empowerment is a byproduct of great leadership.
Yeah.
And to me, it's about the byproduct. It's about what it actually creates.
Yeah. No, perfect, mate. John Cunningham, thanks for your time, mate. You are an expert, I would say, in leadership, and I'm looking forward to the next 32 years of your growth and development. Maybe we'll do this in another 5 years.
Yeah,
Right,
mate, one last thing, if I could just jump in. Just everyone to get Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, because when you get down to level 5 leadership stuff and understand that, wow, your world will change.
Yeah, I love it, mate. So if you've got any questions, guys, jet@jetxavier.com, reach out and connect. Otherwise, share this video to other leaders in your circle, and let's, make leadership great again. Thanks, John. Chat soon, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.